Hi, this is Yvonne with Central Kentucky Television, and this is Bed and Breakfast Month. And who better to be with here at Myrtledene than James Spragens. How you doing, James?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for coming to see us.
Yes, indeed. You the owner, operator, chief cook, bottle washer, whatever.
I am the manager of Myrtledene.
Okay.
I do not those other things, but my cousin Lillian Brewer is the owner. This is her family home. This has been in her family since her grandfather bought it in, I think, 1907.
Okay.
And she wanted to keep it occupied, and she comes back to visit from Virginia fairly often. So.
Okay, now how old is Myrtledene?
Myrtledene was built in 1833.
Okay. Pretty old, huh?
Pretty old,
Okay.
yes.
And you took the opportunity, or you and your cousin took the opportunity to put this all together as a bed and breakfast?
It had been a bed and breakfast. I started in August of 03, but it had been a bed and breakfast since I think the summer of 88. And when I was winding up with college, the job came available, and I said, well, I'll do it for a year.
Okay. For a year? Okay. James made history.
Turns out they can't smoke me out, so that's all right.
Well, listen, tell us, what is the difference between bed and breakfast and going to a regular hotel, motel, someplace like that? Just say.
Well, it's usually someone turns their home into a bed and breakfast. It obviously has a different feel. One thing that I personally don't like about bed and breakfast is a nosy, intrusive innkeeper, and so I try to give them everything that whatever the guests, whatever they want. I try to be there for them, but I don't necessarily sit there and drink coffee with them for an hour. I give them everything they need, and but I want to give them their space so that they feel like, when you go to a hotel or something, you want to feel like, well, this is kind of my space for this time, and that's how I like for them to feel. But as the name might suggest to you, in addition to your night stay, you get a large breakfast the next morning, and it's always homemade, as many local ingredients as I can find, and it's always big.
Okay, now James, you do the cooking?
I do.
You do the cooking.
I
okay.
do.
What's your favorite thing to cook for breakfast?
I love to use Penn's hams. I love to use Jake's country sausage, but I do a variety of French toast. We have homemade granola. I do a baked egg and cheese cup that I've been doing for 20 plus years. So there's several things that I have in rotation.
Fantastic. That sounds delicious. I may have to come up, and stay for overnight just so that I can get that breakfast.
The rate is $95 a night plus tax.
Okay. I'll get on that. Okay. Also, the grounds are wonderful. How large do you have? An acre, quarter acre?
It's about 3 acres. There's a large field behind the house. There's a large field just across Montgomery Court that belongs to this property. Originally, I had a guest who was doing some genealogy and found the original deed in the Washington County Courthouse, because when this house was first purchased, it was purchased the year before Marion County was carved out of Washington County. And so they found the original handwritten deed, made copies of it for me, and I learned that it was bought by Benedict Spalding, who is kind of given credit as being sort of the founder of Lebanon, from the William Paris estate. It was 125 acres for $125.
Oh my.
William Paris ran a tavern on East Main Street. The house was still there as recently as about 25 years ago. It burned. It was at the time the oldest house still standing in Lebanon, but it was a traveler's inn, and people like the Marquis de Lafayette stayed there. I think Henry Clay stayed there. 68's an old road, so a lot of people passed through Lebanon back in the day.
Fantastic. Wow. A little history goes on then with Myrtledene. A lot of history.
Whether you ask for it or not.
Yeah.
Apparently.
And you're so eloquent.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, indeed. We really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I know living in a bed and breakfast has its own drawbacks. Like you said, people coming and going. But you also have your family here.
I do. My wife and 2 sons live here, and they're absolutely no help whatsoever. No, that's not true. That's not true. Henry and Rye, they like to help the guests take their bags upstairs, and they're hoping they, But no, we feel really lucky to live here. It's a great place to raise the boys, and we love it. I want to mention also, in addition to overnight stays, we are available for wedding parties. Just this past weekend, we had a wedding party that used the house from 8:30 to 5:30 for the kind of like the staging area for their wedding. They got ready here. They took their photos here. Somebody brought it. They had a light lunch, and it's kind of nice because when you're doing wedding photos, there's a lot of downtime. The groomsmen are sitting around for an hour waiting for their turn. Well, here, there's lots of place for them to hang out, chat, do whatever they do, and it's kind of a comfortable spot for that.
It looks like you're in the center of everything, too. Everything coming and going in and out of Lebanon.
Well, that's exactly right. There is that. We have a lot of different places for photography, as well as places to set up your tent if you're going to have the wedding or the reception here. We have a lot of different options as far as that goes. And if you're just using the house for part of your wedding, well, we're right next to all the churches. St. Augustine's right down the street. If you're having we've had all kinds of iterations. We've had the ceremony up here and the reception 2 blocks down the street at Center Square. So there's a lot of ways you can use Myrtledene.
Fantastic. Wow, Myrtledene is the place to be.
Well, I think so.
All right. Then.
That's right.
Listen, James, thank you so much today.
Thank you very much.
For giving us the ins and outs of bed and breakfast locations here in Lebanon. And we hope everyone will come out and see you.
Me too.
All right.
Thank you.
This has been Yvonne McNary for Central Kentucky Television.